Welcome to another edition of the Seer and the Scholar. I am Rob Yates. With me always is Rescue Medium Melinda. And tonight we have two incredible guests for you. They are Jay and Marie Yates. Let's go over who they are. If you don't know who they are, you're probably living under a rock, like I usually say. So it's going to be a superb show. So guys, hang in there. We're going to read who they are. And Jay and Maria Yates are more commonly known for their frequent appearances on popular paranormal reality television shows, such as, but not limited to, Ghost Adventures, Haunted Case Files, Season 1 and 2, Paranormal Witness, Ghost Adventures Aftershocks, and The Scariest Night of Our Life. Just to give you a little bit of background on who, their story. Jay and Marie Yates are more commonly known. I apologize. Jay has been haunted since his birth and undergoing a near-death experience that has created a lifetime of personal paranormal experience. Marie, inheriting these hauntings in the marriage, has brought the Yates family haunting countless supernatural encounters in and outside of the field of paranormal investigation. The Yates family haunting has been captivating audiences around the world for a better part of a decade. The Yates appear regularly at events, lectures, discussing their own ongoing paranormal experiences, as well as the knowledge gained with them being haunted survivors. Outside of lectures, radio, television, and events, the Yates have a strong drive to help families that struggle with the paranormal, as they once did. The Yates aren't your average paranormal investigators. The Yates spend much of their available time conducting what they call paranormal consultations rather than often damaging paranormal investigations of family homes. Together, they lead a successful team of passion-driven paranormal investigators into the darkest corners of the desert Southwest. The Yates family crossing over Yates founded the Crossing Over Paranormal Society, aka the Cops Crew, to help both the living and the dead. Their ongoing mission is to seek only truth, understanding, and proof of the paranormal by any means necessary. Their approach to the paranormal has brought many families peace back into their homes and assisting families by putting back together their broken families. The paranormal is not a way of life for the Yates, it is their life. And even today, the Yates live haunted and learned the balancing act between walking the thin line between both the living and the dead. I want to say thank you for the Yates for coming on. Thank you. How are you guys tonight?
We're doing great. Thank you guys for having us on.
Thank you for having us on.
Well, guys, you two are one of my biggest inspirations, as you know that. So I just want to thank you for coming on, and we have got to get together soon. We both here are in Arizona.
Yeah. Yes. Just this COVID needs to go away and stay away.
Right.
Isn't that for sure? Okay, so Jay, do you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then Marie, you go after him. Just tell us, your experiences you've had, and how you got into the paranormal to begin with.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I've been haunted as far back as I can remember. There's really not a time in my life that I don't recall, being haunted. As a very young child, meaning like at the ages of like 4 or 5, I remember being visited by children that had passed away. They would come to me, they were nonverbal, but I would see them for the way they looked at the moments of death. So whether that was a gun wound or a car accident or a fire or a drowning, I would see them for what they looked like at that moment of death. So it was pretty traumatizing for me as a kid. I went through a lot of batteries and flashlights. It was a lot of long nights trying to just stay up to avoid, contact with these things or trying to dodge them or whatever. I started creating like little tents and stuff in my bedroom to kind of hide from what I was seeing. And then after a while, that little fortress I built for myself kind of got inhabited by these spirits that were coming to me. And then you have all these cool TV shows that, we've been very blessed to be a part of, to kind of look at on TV, to know really what that was, what that meant. I always had heard at a very young age of names like Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I would begin to study them as I gotten older, and I would cut out newspaper clippings and articles and stuff like that. I would, do like VCR recordings of their specials that would come on, on the news, usually around Halloween, right? Because that was when it was super popular. It was kind of scary for my parents, because here I was, this kid, seeing all these things that they didn't really quite understand. They didn't disbelieve me, but they wanted to make sure I was psychologically sound, right? So I was evaluated multiple times, all the way up through my adulthood, actually, because of various jobs that I've taken. But they always came back like he's very much so sane. He's either actually seeing these things or he has a very great imagination, is what they would say. That kind of continued. It went on through my teenage years. I suffered from a near-death experience in the late 1990s. And after that, things kind of came full bore, even harder and even stronger. I then kind of tilted towards my faith, got involved with the church, became ordained, and thought that's kind of what I needed to do. And I soon after got excommunicated from that church due to my belief in angels and demons in the afterlife. I talked too much about the end of the Bible instead of the middle of the Bible, whatever it was. They didn't like me. And it was actually a blessing in disguise, because I was kind of like lost, searching and trying to figure out where I was going to go with my life. And I happened to stumble across this lady named Marie. But with that being said, we went through some very serious hauntings ourselves, reaching out to the paranormal community with little to no help, reaching out to clergy with little to no help. And what we would get time and time again is that they felt as if what we were going through was so dangerous that it might affect them and their own families and their own lives. We were angry about it, obviously. But now, as being a seasoned investigator, I'm definitely grateful that if they didn't know how to deal with it, that they just stayed away from it. We both kind of leaned towards our faith. We kind of came together, and conquered it ourselves to a point. I mean, we're still haunted today. I don't believe that all hauntings can just be banished and just all of a sudden they're gone. I believe spirits have a lot more freedom than people would like to believe, as well as demons and angels. So, with that being said, we came together. We shortly thereafter formed our paranormal team, Crossing Over Paranormal Society, in the early 2000s, to kind of help those families, out that were going through similar stuff. Sorry, my cat's going crazy over here, so it's kind of interrupting the interview. Stop it.
No. She's a mama's girl, and she's mad because I'm not sitting with her.
I know. And then pretty much I met Marie, and she probably thought I was just completely insane, right? Actually, prior to us getting married and whatnot, we had a date night, and that date night was to make sure that she understood what she was getting into. And that was a series of about 6 hours of me explaining all my paranormal experiences. And I figured she'd probably run for the hills. But in fact, that evening, she actually had her very own paranormal experience. So she kind of slowly became a believer after that. And decided to join this crazy Yates family haunting.
Yeah.
A question I have for Marie is, once you had that initial experience, how did your mindset change a little bit from what he was telling you? I'm sure, from what Jay was telling you before that, and then all of a sudden having an experience like that. But just give us a little bit of insight of the emotional adjustment and somewhat of the, the day-to-day adjustment once you've had this specific encounter.
At first I didn't believe it, really, and I was I just thought maybe this man brought something into my life. I don't know if
I really did, though.
I was whoa. So I was a little bit. I was set back for a while. I wouldn't talk about a lot of stuff. I wouldn't even let him bring up a lot of stuff. I was really concerned about my children. Before that experience and before he came along, I grew up in a house. It was very Christian based home. The only ghost I ever knew was Casper the Friendly Ghost on TV. I mean, that was very conservative family. Never really heard of any of that kind of. The only time you heard about the devil or anything like that, you always heard about the angels, but nothing ever bad. So
introduced you to those.
Yeah, you introduced me to those. But I mean, that first experience, you know what? I mean, what I saw looked so real. It took a lot for me to say. I thought it was an animal, I will honestly say, but with every other experience we had that evening, I knew it wasn't, but I was so dead set on not believing it was something paranormal.
You described it almost as a gargoyle or this demon.
And I kept saying there's a lizard on its 2 feet or something here in Arizona. I'm not even kidding you. I kept trying to twist it around because it freaked me out. I mean, I was very hesitant of actually, you know, being there with him. But to be honest with you, when he talks about it, about his past and the paranormal, there's a lot. I mean, in life, you see a lot of people not telling the truth and all this kind of stuff. When Jay speaks, you see the truth just coming out of his eyes. So I knew what he was saying, what he has experienced. I knew it was true. So I think that's what scared me the most, is like, okay, if this is really true, I really don't know if I want to be part of it. But I mean, even when I pushed it away, it always was there. I will say I have an autistic son from a previous marriage, and him and my son, they bonded so well because whatever Jay was seeing, my autistic son was seeing. So, and I always assumed it was because he was autistic. That's why he was always saying he had, you know, seen this and seen that. Yeah, imaginary friends and all that kind of stuff. So I just always, you know, pushed it away. But when Jay came along, it was, those two bonded. I actually got really jealous, I will honestly say, because he always wanted to be with Jay, and then Jay adopted him. So
true story though about her first apartment she lived in when she moved here to Arizona. Stephen, there's an episode that's on Scariest Night of Our Lives. It's called Stephen's Imaginary Friend. That's my son's story. He was very grateful. He's 24 now that we told the story. But he would talk to a kid named Nicholas in the bathroom and a man named Snake. And eventually I saw Nicholas and I saw Snake, or at least what was influencing Snake in life. We found out after I had purchased our first house and she had moved out of the apartment, that the landlord of the location was like, I'm surprised you stayed as long as you did. And of course that kind of sparked our interest even more, like, well, why is that? Because of the murder suicide that took place inside your guys' apartment. So essentially what happened is there was a man, his street name, his moniker was Snake. His son's name was Nicholas. It was somewhat, I guess, of some type of standoff between him and the police. He ended up, I think, drowning his son in the bathtub and then taking his own life after that. But Stephen could have told you that, you know, a year of the year you moved in.
Because even before,
I could have told you that about a week after being in your apartment.
I remember before I even started dating Jay, I have an older son that's, oh my gosh, it's gonna be 27. That makes me really old. But I mean, he was like, Mom, Steven's talking to the toilet. And I'm like, what do you mean he's talking to the toilet? And I mean, it's, as one of his parents, I'm like, okay, well, you have to leave your brother alone. Remember, he just, has different kinds of things going on. So I'd pull him away and say, there's nobody in the toilet. And he would talk to somebody in the bathtub all the time. And I'm like, yeah, so I always had to push it off. But I remember my son to this day, his older brother, be like, does Steven still talk to the toilet? So it's like a little joke now. I mean, in a way, a joke, but
they had to find some way to have some type of humor to it because it scared them a lot.
Yeah, it scared a lot, especially me. I'm like, he always wanted to be in that bathroom.
Yeah, that was where he hung out.
He had take his toys in there and everything. Yeah. So and when Jay came along, it
was very interesting because I've never actually told this story, but I'll give it to you. When I was a child, probably around his age, I lived in a condo, and there were several children that drowned to death in the bathtub via the hands of their own father. And I would play with these kids and I thought that they were like a family or something when I was that age. And then later, after talking to my mom about it, I found out that was not the case. And those people were not actually living and breathing, but yet I was actually communicating and playing with my He-Man and my G.I. Joes in the bathtub with other kiddos. It was very parallel. I mean,
our son, like my son's date of birth is the same day he had his near-death experience.
Yes.
There's so many things that went lined up so much. It was
my near-death experience was August 13th of 1999. His birth date is August 13th of 96. So 3 years later, on his birthday, is when I experienced.
And there's just so much more with him, and it's just like
a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
So if you're into numerology and all kinds of stuff, the story between us, it's just intermixing.
Yeah, we give you everything. It mixes. So we were supposed to be together.
The universe pulled us together. We don't want to be together, but
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
There's no such thing as coincidence. And Jay, this question's for you too. Is now that when you first met Marie, how did it feel to now have somebody come into your world, and she had this experience, and now she was encompassed into all facets of your life? What kind of a feeling was that for you once you got to that point? I mean, it must have been something amazing because you were able to share this part of your life with somebody now, right?
Well, let me just tell you this to all the fans out there and that follow us. If it wasn't for this woman that's sitting right next to me, none of this TV stuff would have ever happened, because she would have never been pushing me, and I wouldn't have had that backing to push me to do what we do. So my goal was always, after my near-death experience, I promised God, if you bring me back, you give me the platform, I'll speak to the people. Now, my message isn't conventional. Like, I'm not a church. I'm not trying to convert you to Christianity. But what I am trying to do is plant that seed within someone's mind that there is something after this existence, that there's something after death. And you choose what side you want to be on. That's not for me to decide. That's for these people. But without her, though, I would have never have been the Jay Yates that people know me for today. Yates Family Haunting would have been nothing, because I wouldn't have had the support that I had, that I do get from her to continue doing this. And trust me, there's been plenty of times throughout this, let's be together, where we pretty much wanted to call it quits and run away from it.
Probably more than anyone.
Yeah, and to try to run away from the hauntings, and it doesn't work. I mean, and that's why we're pretty firm believers, like I said earlier, that you just can't just kick out ghosts sometimes, and sometimes you have to kind of just deal with it.
Yeah. I think I pushed it away for like 6 months,
Yeah.
but every day in that 6 months, so it actually got worse.
That's when you started becoming more gifted with
Yeah,
your own abilities that you didn't even know you had.
No, I didn't even know I had any, and that's what drove me to take the 6 months thing. I didn't want nothing to do with it. It's because I started to experience things, and my own sensibilities and stuff like that actually started opening up, and I didn't know what they were. I'm very stubborn. I was a single mom for so long. I will admit it, I'm very stubborn, and I don't like to give my problems to anybody else. They're mine. And it's like, so I didn't want no one to teach me. I'm going to do this myself. And that was really stupid. So if anybody's out there, ask for help. It's going to be way better. I will honestly tell you, because it took me a lot longer to understand everything.
She's very modest. I mean, Marie is very gifted in the ability to hear spirit. It's actually really interesting, because I'm very visual, and I don't hear much of anything from spirit or the other side. It's very rare if I do, but she is very, very, very accurate. And it's really interesting when the two of us get together on an investigation, or we're trying to help somebody outside of investigation or whatever it is. Me being able to see something that she can bring to light with actual, like a story that I wasn't able to gather from what I was just seeing. So together, we always say that I'm the eyes and she's the ears.
Hopefully that works when we're like 80 still. I have the ears, he has the eyes still.
Right, yeah, totally.
I mean, I will tell you one thing though. It is true. I do hear a lot and all that stuff. I'm not one of those that will do readings or anything, because to be honest with you, I'm very
human.
Not, I think everybody's human. I just don't feel like if I said something to somebody and they went home and like hurt themselves, or they broke up with their loved one, husband or wife, whatever, I would never forgive myself. I'm just not that kind. I'm very grateful. I have so many friends that do readings and all that kind of stuff, and bless their hearts. I give them credit. I wouldn't do it. We do it for our own gain and research of the paranormal. I will say that. Even with that, we try to back it up with scientific too.
Well, Marie, I mean, I understand everything you're saying. I mean, I love it. And how you two just go back and forth is so funny. Now, there's paranormal investigators. Now, you two look at yourself as paranormal consultants.
Yes.
Yes.
How is that different?
For me, it's different because, I mean, the investigation is more so, it's become more of a trophy hunt these days, right? I remember the day, it was years and years and years ago. We caught the audio piece, we caught the video piece, and we caught the photograph for our client, right? So we had the smoking gun. So we showed our client like, hey, we caught it. And I remember them looking back at us and going, okay, well, now what? And I looked at Marie like, oh shit, what? That's true. Now what? You know what I mean? So we, from then on out, we kind of focused on trying to be the now what's, right? And sometimes to be the now what's, you don't need to be that person that's going in and trying to get that evidence. They already know they're haunted. So we do an extensive check as far as making sure they're psychologically sound enough to even have contact with us or our team, especially for liabilities issues and things like that. So we really try to dive deep and make sure these people, are of sound mind and whatnot, and in good health prior to moving forward, for their own safety and our own as well. So, and because we've lived and learned, that's part of the reason for that as well. The consulting part of things is just really like providing people with information. I mean, oftentimes what people are looking for is just someone to talk to. It's not always.
It's almost like a friendship or a family.
Yeah,
is what you're building. I mean,
our case manager that deals with our stuff through our team is our previous client. I mean, one of our most seasoned investigators was a previous client. She came to us at 14. She's now 22. So I mean, like, to give you an idea of who's in our family and our team, are people that we've kind of helped mold into investigators, and
not all of them have turned into investigators, but I will say, like, their family.
Right.
I'm always there for them. If somebody's like, you know what, I always tell people, if they're having an experience in your home, hey, why don't you go meet me at Starbucks? We'll go sit at Starbucks. I mean, you can't do that now with COVID, but like, hey, let's go sit 6 feet away from each other in a park. It's there's always different things you can do with
Zoom,
people.
Skype,
Yeah, I mean, and I'm like, just get out of the house, move around, get out of there, because a lot of times people, when you're in your own home and you're experiencing that stuff, it takes you. I mean, there has to be something now, leaving that door and shutting that door and walking out, seeing something new, fresh air, something like that. It sort of relieves you from that stress.
We really feel that spirits are fueled by energy, right? So the common consensus amongst the paranormal community, we can all agree that spirits are probably made up of energy, right? I mean, that's what all of our gadgets are, whatnot. That's even what psychics, energy workers will talk to you about. So with that being said, we really try to show and give different directions to individuals how to lower their fear response to the hauntings. Not necessarily ignoring them, because that can do the opposite, right? But to learn how to properly organize their emotions when dealing with their daily life, meaning that most cases you deal with, if you're an investigator and you take residential cases, you'll agree with me. You're dealing with domestic violence, you're dealing with infidelity, you're dealing with drug addiction, you're dealing with lies, you're dealing with a lot of teenage drama, stuff like that, right? So these are all elements of just like chaos and whatnot. So once you start identifying all those like huge markers and whatnot, and you start closing those windows that they've left open in their temple, so to speak, right? Their home, their domain, it starts to generally like naturally lower the level of activity anyways. And when you really put things in perspective about hauntings, you get a call, they hear footsteps down the hallway. And then you say, okay, we'll try to get out there as soon as we can. You're doing all the background work on it. Another 2 days later, they say, oh my gosh, now doors are slamming. Well, what has changed? Their fear response has changed is what it is. So when you really put it in perspective to a client and you say, well, what is really going on? Well, there's footsteps and door slams. Well, can footsteps hurt you? Well, no, but they're scary. Okay, well, can door slams hurt you? No, but it's terrifying. Okay, I understand that. But how about we handle it this way or this way? And then we kind of help, guide them in a direction of just creating their own peace in their own bubble. And with that being said, it generally lowers the level of activity. And they learn that balancing act between both the living and the dead like we have.
But that's incredible too, because that emotional side is a big deal too. Looking
Absolutely.
into that
Yes.
aspect of it, and I commend you for that. I think that a consultant is actually the proper word for that. So that's kudos to you guys. That's truly awesome. Now, one thing that I'm sure a lot of people are curious about is, tell us about the first investigation that you guys did together. Just if it was just you two, who else was there, and tell us about the type of investigation, basically the details of it, if you could.
Well, the first investigation we did together with our team specifically would have been a residential home. There would have been a lot of secrets within the family, that were hidden, that we kind of uncovered throughout the process of our investigation. It was the first investigation we did with our team. I actually got grabbed by my shoulders and pushed up against a wall by something. We caught on audio what sounded like reindeer hoofs on the wooden floors clanking. We caught our actual Reverend Paul Lovegrove, who since has passed away, was with us, and he performed a blessing at the end of our investigation. And the moment that he used the word Jesus Christ on camera, we caught this giant flash of light that disturbed the whole area around him and shut off the camera for a moment. So that was pretty significant. We also experienced an entire row of family pictures exploded while we were in the actual home. So that was our first investigation as a team. Pretty spooky, obviously kind of scary. I think we brought a lot of peace back and comfort into the home, and being able to validate, of course, their hauntings, number one, and then kind of like molding them and guiding them in the directions of understanding how this haunting was being fueled. And then since then, they've come a long ways.
Wow, that is pretty amazing. So now some investigators or paranormal teams, they collect haunted items. Now, do you guys collect those? And do you believe that these haunted items really exist?
I know they exist, and I do have a very large collection, unfortunately.
I did not want it in my house.
But there's a story behind this too. So we collect. What was starting to happen is that we were identifying things in homes where the hub, the paranormal activity was coming from, and the people were like, "Well, I don't want it in the house anymore." And then we were like, "Well, we don't really want it either. So what do you want to do with it? Just go throw it away, And then eventually. I think one of the first objects that we obtained from an actual case, it was a crucifix that was almost like 80 years old. It was made in Mexico City. It was bought in Mexico City. There was reports of the crucifix had Jesus on the crucifix, right? And it would bleed. It would perspirate some type of oil or liquid. It was thrown from the wall so many times that it's all patched up. Anyone that's ever experienced it or we've ever brought it out to show anyone, I don't even have that on display, actually. It's been something that's kind of put up. I feel it's kind of irresponsible to put it out.
We're not the only team that went into this house either.
There's about 6 other teams locally, and then we were the stupid ones that took it home with us.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, but they really wanted it out.
I called you very stupid.
And we use it as an educational tool when we do like conventions and whatnot to talk about it, bring it out, and to show people, the cross, what it looked like, and kind of give an actual example of something that is haunted. But we have lots of objects. One of the weirdest things we have is like one of those little toddler toys that's like says ABCs and says a few words and stuff. We took a residential case, and this device actually said that the husband was going to develop cancer and die. He did get cancer. He almost died shortly thereafter. When we got there, the little toy was emitting such high levels of EMF, we couldn't even gauge it on our meters. We blessed it, and immediately after blessing it and taking it out of the home, all EMF stopped on the device. So just a perfect example of, if in your faith or whatever you're using.
And there was no batteries in this toy.
No, everything was taken out. This thing was emitting EMF. It was crazy. It was very weird. But we've had a lot of weird things that we've taken.
At first I didn't like the haunted items. I always knew it was something that happened and can happen. Number one, I've always talked to John Zaffis, and he has an amazing show that he was on, Haunted Collector. So I know the stuff is true, and I always knew it. I just never really wanted it in our house. Another thing I never used to let in our house was Ouija boards.
Oh, I love Ouija boards.
Yeah, he used to, when we'd go to Target, he would throw Ouija boards at me all the time.
Toys R Us, when Toys R Us was open. It was a game I played.
Yeah, it was like a game.
Dodge the Ouija. Yeah. But like because she's born, in a culture much different than mine. Although I was, deep in Christianity, but we were a little bit more open. We were Southern Baptists, so we spoke in tongues and did all that kind of crazy stuff. So we were a little more open about like energies and all this.
To this day, I still have never played with a Ouija board. I understand the Ouija board now is just a cardboard box and all that kind of stuff, and an obelisk and all these other equipment is almost the exact same thing as a Ouija board. I understand all that, so no one needs to tell me that I understand it. It's something psychologically ingrained in me, thanks to church or my parents or whatever.
Okay, now imagine what she's saying about this. Okay, so 2 years ago, I inherited a coffee table It's a wooden coffee table. It's an oak table that has a burnt-in Ouija on top of it. Now, someone had a clever idea to use their own blood to conjure a demon through the board. Well, then everyone kind of like had some weird things happen with it. They didn't want it in their place anymore. So I took it off their hands, and
he almost got a divorce from that one.
So I put it up in my loft, and a witch friend of ours, who's great people that we know here in Arizona, had made us a homemade planchette.
Made you, not me.
Yeah. And the beautiful artwork and everything, and they put some kind of casting spell. I don't know what they did. It sounded really cool, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'll put it in my my office. And it matched the table so awesome, and it fit so well. So I put it on the table, which inadvertently, I believe, activated the entire damn thing. Okay, so literally, we would start hearing the coffee table upstairs on the tile being dragged across the floor. It moved. It would go up there. It'd be moved halfway across the room.
None of our animals would ever go back into our loft.
Our team members won't even go up into that space.
No.
Because they just say it has a weird vibe to it. To us, it's pretty normal. I mean. Yeah.
Not well.
I mean, not to you.
I never liked the room. I mean, because he has voodoo dolls and from New Orleans.
Man.
And I don't get me wrong. I've learned now with what we experience, and it is cool, all that kind of stuff, and it's good to, awesome. Wonderful to research into it, learn all about it, and I've been doing that, but I'd rather stay the 6 feet away from it.
COVID rules apply.
Social distancing for the coffee table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. The question I have for Marie is, after you had that first sighting of a ghost, now that usually has a profound effect on people. Now, when you look back at some of the memories of maybe your childhood or growing up, do you see them differently, as in maybe they could have been paranormal in nature?
It's funny that you said that. I used to tell Jay all these stories about what I did when I was growing up. I was a tomboy. My dad wanted a boy. He got 2 girls. I was the last one. So he started raising me to be a tomboy, and I ran around, and
she hung out at the haunted bridge. She played house in the haunted house down the road.
I
played in the haunted cornfield.
I mean, now with knowing so many people that do paranormal, I get invited to events, and I'm from Indiana, so that's where I grew up, and all these locations where I used to actually hang out with are locations now that people investigate and say are really haunted, and I'm like, that is so. And he's like, see, you just were always into it. And I'm like, well, I don't recall anything, but it is strange.
So they were slowly drawing her in. See, I
did know there was a farmer that died on the bridge. I always knew that. So that's the reason we just thought it was cool to be out there. But I know.
Because he died on the bridge.
I don't know. It's just, you're young.
Sounds like a paranormal investigator.
I don't know. And then haunted house. I mean, when something says no trespassing, stay out. Well, that made me, I was a stupid one of those girls that said, stop, don't go in. I'd go in. It says not to, touch. I always touched. I mean, I was one of those very adventurous person. So yeah, I guess I was always around it. Mindset, because maybe church. I mean, I'm not even kidding when I say church. I went to church Wednesday night, Friday nights, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It was very much in my life.
Well, Marie, I understood exactly what you're saying. I was raised in Tennessee, and so it was a Bible Belt thing there too. Yeah. And it was always Ouija board and all of that, stay away from. And as you said, after you do your own investigation on it, you start realizing it's not like they have put in our heads.
Yeah.
So, now, one thing I would like to have on any of the investigations you've been on, has anything ever came home with you? Any kind of spirit or anything that's actually followed you home?
All the time. I mean, there was a time for a long time that we would jokingly talk about in our lectures that we don't use paranormal protection. And it was always this big joke, right? Until things actually started getting real serious. Marie since has developed a lot of autoimmune system disorders that are not in her family. And then after further research, finding out there's a lot of women specifically that suffer from a lot of these autoimmune that are investigators as well, that weren't really well protecting or guarding themselves out in the field. So We did allow a lot of things to follow us home. We opened it very much so, and we kind of were the punching bags for the clients that we serve. So we were very serious about really trying to help people out. So we were almost allowing that piggyback effect to happen to the point to where it almost killed us. We're definitely much more careful now. We still do get attachments. An example of recent attachment that we have that followed us home is from Vulture City, a town that we work out of quite a bit. With a little girl named Izzy. Funny story about that is one evening we were downstairs watching TV. Marie fell asleep early, like always, and I was awake, like always. And I started hearing one of our cats meowing to get into my eldest son's room, or my youngest son's room, actually. And he wouldn't let him in. So I kind of walked halfway up the stairs, and I looked over, and I'm like, hey, can you just open your door and let the cat in so he'll shut up? It's annoying, And then I start hearing this little girl saying, hey, kitty, kitty, kitty. Hi, pretty kitty. And I'm like, oh, my God. Well, I don't have any girls in my house, number one, except for my wife. And this was clearly a little girl. So I slowly walked back down the stairs. I sat back down. I woke my wife up on accident in the process. And she's like, hey, honey, you ready to go upstairs and go to bed? I'm like, no, I'm good. And I think I stay down here. But the next morning, I talked to her while she's doing laundry. And I said, hey, did you realize that we have this little girl in the house? I heard her last night. And she goes, oh, that's Izzy. She follows us home from Vulture all the time. And I'm like, really? This is how common this stuff is to follow us home, that we don't even bother talking to each other about some of the things that we have. We did a recent filming. I can't talk too much about it, but we did do a reenactment at a location. And with that, like, literally brought something home with us. We both were lying in bed. This is just 2 weeks ago. And I hear very clearly, I should have had a fair trial. And I almost had a heart attack, right? And I look over at my wife and I'm like, did you hear that? And she's like, yes. So, like, definitely, it can be spooky at times, but we kind of we kind of try to take care and watch over each other. I know when she's gone too far with things, or when I'm going too far. She's met my demons. I've met hers, so.
Our very first time that I knew something followed us home, honestly, was one of our why we got on our very first TV show, My Ghost Stories.
Oh yeah.
We were out doing Liberty Cemetery out there, and we went home. We did the investigation stuff. Go home. All of a sudden, Jay and I both were having weird. Jay worked third shift, and I worked first shift, so we were never home really that much together. Only like little bits of hours in the morning.
So
and
I worked for the sheriff's
yeah,
office.
he worked for the sheriff's department. And at nighttime, I thought my kids were messing with me because I would hear cabinet doors just being slammed, open, shut, refrigerator completely open, left open. And the beeping sound of a refrigerator when it stays open. Well, that's what it was doing. So I'd go out there. I'm like, what is going on? And I go and check on the kids. Both sound asleep. It happened, I don't know, 2 or 3 times for me one night. Finally, I was like, I'm going to get these kids because I know one of them are messing with me. So I sort of sat back behind our front door. There's like a door and they can't really see. And I'm not kidding you. Freaked the living crap out of me because all of a sudden it started happening. And I went, boo, I got you. And there was nobody there. And
joke's on you.
Yeah, joke was on me because I literally screamed so loud. I did wake up my kids. But like, and then Jay and we both, I think it took us a little bit of time.
Well, we finally started because I came to you and I said, like, hey, have you been noticing that these cabinet doors keep opening up? And like, yeah, and they're not like they're unlevel or anything. This doesn't make any sense. And then I had an experience one morning, and I was in the kitchen and I saw what I thought was my son run across the room. And I'm like, oh, that's weird, but pretty normal. It kind of caught my attention. But it kind of brought me off because what I was seeing was black and white. And like, I thought, okay, wait a second. What I see, and then I saw it again, and I realized it was a kid of about the same age as my son at the time. And I realized it wasn't my son because my son I had just taken to school. And I'm like, okay, I'm tired. There's, I just worked all night long. Maybe I'm hallucinating, and then I saw it again. And then one evening was the final straw for us, I guess. For me specifically, because it happened right after your incident, I think, where we finally had enough too. I woke up, I fell asleep on the couch, which is pretty typical when I work night shift. Sometimes I get off at 3 a.m. and I had fallen asleep on the couch, and I woke up to hearing what sounded like a kid choking. Is like my father instinct, because I've heard my kids go through that, and I immediately jumped up off the couch, and I'm looking, and at the door I see a kid, around my own son's age, wearing clothes of like, late 1800s, early 1900s. And he's kind of like holding his neck like this. And I'm like, oh my God. And then this thing ran straight for me and disappeared between me and the door. So then I realized that we had brought something home from the cemetery. And we kindly asked for it to, get back with us in the car and travel back, and reunited this kid with his family and whatnot.
We usually, people ask us, can you cross people over? Honestly, I don't feel comfortable doing it. We did it that one time with that just because.
We've done it a few times.
But we honestly.
We're not in the business of being God, is what we always say. And people really confuse crossing over paranormal society for that. Is that we're in the business of crossing over, and we've crossed over a few successfully. And there was one that I tried to cross in a hotel here in the Valley, and I was in the process of crossing over, and I realized that where that kid was at was his paradise, and who the hell was I to kick him out of his own paradise? And I broke down emotionally. I just wanted to stop investigating altogether because I felt so horrible, because I really felt all his emotions during that process of crossing, and I left it alone. So we made it, and that was another reason why we kind of become more consultants and educators than just the investigator, because it's, we're not trying to be gods here, and we're not trying to trophy hunt for the world's best evidence either.
That's actually a good segue into the next question that I have for you guys. And this is more of like a theory question. It's all about what you think. There's no wrong answers to it.
Sure.
A lot of people, when everybody has their own idea of why hauntings happen, why spirits come from the other side to here, how they cross through the veil, and what their purpose is. How do you guys feel? Why do you think that they come here? How do they get here? Or what's the process of them coming here? And what is their being for being here with us at this time?
I think we both have different opinions on that a little bit.
Well, both answer.
Yeah. I will honestly say I think most people that are here usually have something that they have an unfinished business. That is most of the spirits, I believe, is they just have unfinished business. If it was they got murdered, or they didn't get to tell a loved one something, they were worried about something, but there is that percentage of, I think, evil things that do come down, up or down, wherever you want to say it. I know it's all right here, but that are just there to cause havoc on people's lives. And then there's the angels that come down to protect people. I think and I understand if you actually have abilities, you sort of have that one spirit guide in your life that follows you around and stuff. So I think those are there.
There's a lot of different reasons why they stick around. It's always been a question, right? Like we last October we had the great, like, this awesome opportunity to go to Riverside and do an event for Live Nation, and we had to kind of identify that the RMA Theater, whether it was or was not haunted in a very short amount of time. And what I noticed is that there was tons of deaths around the actual theater itself. There wasn't really any like solid deaths that we could get from inside the building, or anything that would have led us to like, why is this place haunted, right? And we were using ITC, and I remember we were down the line like the last day, and I was like, why are you guys even here? And through the box, it clearly says, this is our paradise. And I was like, oh my God, that's it, right? So that was a place of great joy for those people. And they went and saw great shows and great concerts and things like that. And in death, they're still visiting those locations where they had some of their best memories. So I think that a lot of times, like, for a good example too, is Vulture City. It's a place where, they experienced a lot of, good times, and they've returned because that's kind of a piece of their paradise during life, and why not be there during death? And it seems as if it's like a parallel dimension.
I was wondering when you're going to start bringing that up.
So like a parallel dimension, like, and we see this a lot at the ghost town we work out of, is that these things are there carrying on as they did 150 years ago. And like nothing has even changed. Like many of them very residual energies that don't even know we're there. Sometimes we come across some intelligent ones, some very intelligent ones that are still doing the same thing. So, you know, maybe heaven and hell aren't so far away. You know, I believe in interdimensionalism, so I do believe that spirits are, you know, everywhere. I believe we constantly come in contact with both angels and demons and ghosts all the time, either by mistake or on purpose or whatever. So I really don't think hell is far away, and I really don't think heaven's far
That's
away.
the reason I said I always used to say hell's down below and heaven's above. But when Jay, his story, when I hear, and it honestly could be true, like heaven and hell's right here. I mean, and that's the reason, and I like his theory.
I see
that's why it sometimes it just slips through, you know.
It's just like the only way you can describe it is vibrations, if you will. Like when I had my near-death experience, I was a ghost for a moment, and I was able to look back at my shell, if you will, and you know, life was still carrying on. I was being thrown into different locations I was at previously. You know, is that what ghosts do? I'd have to say so, because I was a ghost for a minute or two, and I was able to do that myself.
Yeah, I had a near-death experience too, Jay. So that happened to me. I also went to heaven briefly.
Right.
And so I get exactly what you're saying.
Most of my time was spent in hell, but I had a brief period of heaven.
I can't say.
I jokingly laugh about it, but it's very serious.
The funny thing is when you get mad at somebody, sometimes you'll say, "Just go to hell." And I said that to him, and he goes, "I have already been there." So it's like one comment you just can't say to him.
And here's the thing, dude, and me knowing that place does exist carries a huge responsibility and a burden on my back. And a lot of those things followed me back here and probably aren't too happy because they knew what I was going to do with my life and where I was going. And that's why all odds stuck up against our relationship not happening. And so many things have come against us is because, you know, I'm able to go out and I have these large platforms that I'm able to talk about this. Perfect example, probably 8 years ago, we filmed 9 years ago, our first time with Ghost Adventures, I think. And we did a Comic-Con, and they gave us the wrong Phoenix Comic-Con, huge Comic-Con, like 100,000 people there. And we'd always done historically like panels there and stuff, right? But they give us rooms of like 150 seats, which is just fine, you know, for what we're doing. Well, this one year they gave us a room with like 500-600 seats, something like that, something crazy. And we're sitting in there, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so embarrassing because we're only going to have like 20 people in here. I'm telling my wife, I said, honey, if we only get 20 people in here, I'm going to pretend like I'm having a seizure or something. And then we're just getting the hell out of here. Like, 'cause this is embarrassing. Like, I don't want them to know that we didn't fill this room up and how embarrassing this is going to be. Why'd they do this to us? I can tell you that 100 people showed up, 200 people, 300 people, 400 people, 500 people, with 100 or more people out the door that day. And I couldn't go anywhere. But I remember, it's hard to talk about sometimes, but I didn't want to talk. And I'm a huge talker, and I'm scared to death of public speaking, which you wouldn't think, but how I've been rambling on in your radio show.
He rambles all the time.
But I'm seeing these people, and I'm like, who am I to talk to these people? What the hell are they here for? And Marie, you know, looked at me and she said, you made your promise to God. That's your pulpit. Those are your people. Go tell them your story. And oh my God, I just started bawling, just crazy bawling. I'm like, thanks, babe. Really appreciate this. Here I am, grown-ass man in front of hundreds of people, and now I'm crying and I haven't even said hello yet, you know? And then I had to explain to them why that was important to me. So here I am in like Pop Culture Con talking about heaven, hell, my near-death experience, and how that relates to my journey now. And like, dude, no one would leave. So it was one of those things where it's like, you know, like we've had these great opportunities, you know, and we're just really happy to just share them with people. But
he's a good talker too. I don't know why he don't like to talk because he does talk all the time.
Tours and all that. I don't know. It freaks me out. But
well, I get that too. You know, there's no such thing as coincidence too. Maybe you were meant to see those things, so when you did come back, you were able to affect more people on a day-to-day level or like on a personal level. And then when you do those big things too, you know, I love doing radio shows. And I mean, I've had instances where, you know, I was hanging out with a band and the band's lead singer got really, really ill. And I've never sang in front of anybody. And they're doing this place and it's 180 people. And they're like, bro, you're the only one who knows the songs. So now you got to sing. So not only is it speaking, it's singing. And I actually got a standing ovation, and I was like, yeah, you know,
when you do it,
it was awesome. But I get that there was like this nerve through me that I was like ready to choke up a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And then I just closed my eyes and did it. So I get that. But you know, there's no such thing as coincidence. I truly believe that you guys are here on a mission. And talking to you today, I can feel that energy as well, and how you're gonna, you know, you're shifting things. So you say you went to hell. You weren't meant to be there. You were meant to see it. So then when you came back, it had that profound effect to switch you to a different lifestyle.
I hope so. I hope so.
I know so. I know so, because think about what it means to go to heaven. If whoever's out there that believes in heaven, you do right by others. You know, you help others. That is partially what the Catholic faith is about. Faith is about, is doing for other men what they can't do for themselves, and you embody that with your work. So you know, it's very admirable, and I commend you on that. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
He's a good man.
She says that now. Wait till the show's over.
If you give me what I want, no.
Okay.
I need another Yoda, and I'll be quiet.
Oh, she's obsessed with baby. It's a child. It's not Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
It's the child, babe.
I was getting ready to say, Jay, all you got to do is get her a Yoda and she'll be good to go.
Oh my God, you should.
It is a great show. I'm not gonna lie, it is a great show.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It is the child. It is the child. I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, I know what it is on thing, but me, it's Baby Yoda.
There you go. Now let's talk about Vulture City. Tell everybody all about it, about the ghost hunts, everything you guys do, and just put it out there so everybody can come and visit.
Usually every weekend we're out there on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. I'm your history tour guide, so I provide you with a historical tour. It's about 2 hours long. It's a walking tour. It's across 15 acres, about 15 different buildings. About 2 times a month, we offer ghost tours. We call that the Vulture City Ghost and Legend Tour. That is usually twice a month. It's $25. It usually starts at about 6 o'clock, ends around 8 o'clock, or Marie will say 8:30 because I always go over.
He doesn't know how to shut up.
Because I don't know how to shut up. But I want people to feel like, I want them to have fun. So
I will say those have been selling out because we lower it down. It is outside, and we're very lucky that we get to do this because it is all outdoors. But we still lower our numbers due to COVID. So like we have the next one is November 28th, and it's completely sold out already. So it was
sold out a week ago.
Yeah, it was sold out a week ago. So our next one would not be until December 18th.
December 18th is open. We also have a few tickets left. We do like 3 times a year. We do an overnight lockdown at Vulture City. What that means is you come out from dusk till dawn. So we still open the gates around 4:30. We segregate 15 different campsites across the entire town. So you're able to camp outside of an active brothel, not active like open, but paranormally active. Maybe, I don't know. But the large assay building, which is extremely haunted. Different locations throughout the actual town. We have campsites marked off, and they're very well socially distanced. We provide dinner that evening. We talk around the campfire about some of our own personal encounters there at Vulture City and in our own lives. We give some demonstrations of how we kind of communicate with the spirits out there. Our team comes out, they volunteer their time to educate others about like how to use equipment, things like that. I don't sleep the entire night, so I'm out there with everybody investigating, showing them what we do, talking about the buildings or whatnot. But that's a popular one. And then, of course, we have once a year, unfortunately, COVID canceled this year, our paranormal conference. But first weekend of October of 2021, we are having our second
8th through the 10th.
8th through the 10th, sorry, of next year, 2021, we're having a paranormal conference. Our big headliners, of course, are Johnny Zaffis, Sarah from Morgan.
Go to Morgan City.
Yeah. We'll be out there with a lot of our friends, a lot of people, a lot of great authors, a lot of great paranormal TV personalities. There's a lot of good people in the paranormal field providing lectures. Patty's coming out from Ghost Adventures to do gallery readings. We have Jeff Woolman coming out to do a UFO Skywatch that weekend as well. So it's action-packed, got a lot of stuff going on. Vendors are out there. We have food trucks.
We wanted to do a Paracon where just anyone came out and was able to start doing speaking and everything. Yeah, we have, some of them that have been headlining and they've been on major shows and stuff like that.
But that doesn't mean that you know what the hell you're
But
talking
doesn't
about.
mean, I mean, there's a lot of the speakers, I will honestly say, they are way educated. There are speakers that are going to be at our event. So, I mean, it's
We have Planet Paranormal coming out.
I mean, we have Keith Bailey. We have, well, some of them have been on TV shows themselves, like little episodes here and there on things. But I mean, a lot of people think, oh, they have to be our own TV show and all this stuff. But we try to bring everybody out.
We're not celebrity heavy. We just try to have people that are actually credible. And some of those people might be paranormal TV personalities, I guess, at the same time, or authors that are really well known, or sidekicks or things like that. But it's a really good time. We had like great reviews across huge websites and giving us reviews the first year. I couldn't believe it, like how well it was received. Our meet and greet was one of our signature moves that we did with that, where we bring out all of our headliners. We provide you a meal. We have an open bar. You're able to see the town that evening before the ghost hunt the next day. So that was a huge, huge plus. People love that. But we're hoping to do it even bigger and better in 2021. We had several hundred
Hopefully
people.
everybody, all the paranormal cons. It was sad. All of us paranormal people didn't get to really see our family anywhere. I mean, I miss everyone.
Yeah, it's weird. We're used to doing a lot more traveling. Last year, I'd sometimes wake up and not know where the heck I was at because we did so much traveling.
Yeah.
And then this year we're like, oh,
filming,
I'm at home again.
I mean, filming, especially on Haunted Case Files because it's to Canada, all that. It's sort of.
Oh, hopefully we get a green light for it. Uh-oh.
No, we're still here.
No, you're here.
Oh, it completely looked like we got kicked off there. See?
We got an incoming caller. That's what it was. Sometimes it happens when the caller pops in. Because I'm labeled as the host, so when the caller pops in, it goes right to me for some reason. But let's admit the caller. I'm sure that they have a question. Hello, caller, are you there?
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Please state your name and say hi to Jay and Marie.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Marie. I'm Carol. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, Melinda, you're looking smoking.
Hey there, Carol. How are you?
I'm good.
I think we lost her.
We definitely lost Carol somehow. That was wild. But well, while we wait for her to come back, because I'm sure she'll be back. You know what? When you guys go out into the field, there's a few questions I have for that. So I'm going to start on those a little bit. When you go for an investigation, what's your trusty piece of equipment? That one piece of equipment that you go to that you either love or you feel is like super accurate or reliable to you.
For me, it'd be like my old Sony audio recorder. For you probably would just throw all the equipment in the trunk.
I would.
And just walk out there
it
by
would
yourself.
be me, myself, and I. Don't get me wrong. I agree with him with audio, just a basic camera, or even a camcorder. I mean, those are the three things. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's all flashy and good, and a lot of them you can't get evidence on. I'm not going to say because there's a ton of our friends that have came up with tons of equipment now. And I love them all, but I am one of those old-fashioned ones that I could go into a dark room with nothing and just sit there by myself and experience. But I know people are saying, well, how are you going to catch your the evidence then? I'm not really big on now catching that big old thing on photograph or audio. It's for me to actually do research into the paranormal now. So that's where I'm at.
Well, plus you didn't have to worry about it because you're just getting followed around by our camera guy. So they're recording what she's doing anyway.
I don't ask for that.
Yeah, no, I really think it's probably that. It's just literally just the basics, audio, video, and camcorder.
Well, no, you like ITC.
Oh, yes, I'm obsessed.
Yes,
I am actually. Yes, that's true.
I actually did an interview for Ron Iacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez. I don't know if you know who they are.
Right.
They do ITC and EVP, and it's wild. It's wild the stuff that they find out. They actually do like an old European style that does more of like the static bandwidth as opposed to like the AM or FM. It's truly incredible. Truly incredible.
No, that's awesome.
It definitely is. I think we have the caller back. Let's get Carol back in here. Carol, you there?
Yes.
What happened, darling?
I don't know. I was fixing to ask my very serious question, which You guys know me well enough to know that this is sincere, but here's my question. As cool as it sounds to go do the overnight thing, and Melinda, you won't know me well enough to know, do you have restrooms where I can go change my pants when I piss them? Because I will.
Yes, we do, and it has
Yes.
running water as well. And they're
I
very
always
nice
say,
facility.
I always tell people one thing good about Vulture City: we have no electricity, but we have bathrooms that are women approved because it has running water. And I always say it's women approved because then you're like, okay, yeah, that's a good one. So yes, Vulture City does have bathrooms that are nice.
That was like
I wouldn't actually be out there that often if it didn't.
That's very true.
I will not go in other kind of restrooms.
Where is Vulture City?
Vulture City is about 15 to 20 minutes south of Wickenburg, or probably about 50 minutes from Phoenix, maybe a little bit longer, depending if you drive like me or not. You might be an hour and 15 minutes.
Do you all just go anywhere?
That's the cool thing about Vulture City and the event that we do out there. It's a very open format. So, for example, if you're a paranormal investigator, when we check you in, we ask you a series of questions, and then you're an investigator, we'll cut you loose immediately to let you start investigating.
I think she meant if we investigate anywhere else.
Oh, or do we investigate anywhere else, like in the town, or no?
Yeah, because I'm dying to go to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
Well, we
I don't know
definitely,
why.
we definitely did a series of events, specifically in our state. We're branching off to California, and we do different events and paracons throughout other people's events that we appear at. But COVID definitely has put a huge, stop.
I mean, next year, as it is right now, we are supposed to be going out to Texas. We're going out to Boston.
Right.
Where's the other one? Oh my goodness.
Washington.
Oh, Washington.
Yeah.
And there's I think another one that's sort of in the thing, but so there, hopefully 2021 is better. We do get to do all that traveling, but we do investigate out of the state of Arizona. We have, especially when we take vacations. I always tell people, my kids, we've taken them to Universal Studios and Disneyland. They hate it. They just hate it. They want to go to places that are haunted. So we always take family vacations on haunted, vacations everywhere. So that's our family vacation.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Where are you guys headed in Texas?
The Texas Paracon.
Texas Paracon.
Oh, awesome, Natalie. Good friends with Natalie too. Yeah. Okay. I hopefully will be out there as well. My sister lives in Dallas, so I'm trying to work it all around. But you're definitely going to be seeing me and Melinda out there at the cons a little bit more. Hopefully this year, once everything passes up. So you'll definitely be out there with you guys. Hopefully we'll get to meet, which will be really cool.
Yeah.
You have any more questions, Carol?
Actually, I think I'm speechless. That don't happen often.
It doesn't. And we love you, Carol. We appreciate you. And we thank you for stopping by.
Always. I am a diehard devoted stalker. You all know that.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Rob kicked me out.
You got it, Carol. I got you, Carol. Don't worry.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Carol.
Night.
Dave, you cannot pull this anymore.
Oops.
You can't have Marie in charge of anything like electrical. Oh my gosh.
I could never be a tech person.
No.
Well, it has its ups and downs. I tend to mess things up too sometimes, but I am the tech person. So
you'd see flames probably, and if I had to do a radio show.
Oh God.
I'd start something on fire somehow.
Oh my gosh. I just, Marie, you make me laugh the whole time we're on here. Okay. So what would be your personal top 5 most active places that you would suggest for other teens to check out?
Oh, I think we have different ones. You go first, I guess.
Of course, first, Vulture City, Ghost Town, definitely very active. Definitely a great location. Should be on everyone's bucket list. Outside of that, the Yuma, Arizona State Penitentiary, so the old territorial prison. in Yuma, Arizona. That's a huge one. Everyone should check that out. And of course, Tombstone, Arizona is just absolute. I mean, you have to go there at least one time or 100 or so. What would you say? Top 5? I don't know.
That's yours. Mine are different than yours.
Holy cow!
I already know that.
And just in Arizona specifically, or
well,
just
anywhere.
No.
Virginia City, the Bonanza, one of the most terrifying investigations probably I've been on in a very long time. Went down at the Bonanza in Virginia City. Super active location there.
Just need one more, babe.
I'm trying to think.
It's tough on the spot. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. And Jerome, Jerome's a great one. If you haven't been around to Jerome, that place is like crazy active. You can just catch ghosts during the day by accident on your cell phone camera. That's my 5. So there.
My number 1 would be Vulture City. Now I used to not say that, but I will honestly say Vulture City. You can go out there during the day or night, and there's some activity, something. Second is Jerome. I would recommend anybody go out there because you're going to be able to drink spirits and see spirits. So it's
maybe in that same order.
Yeah, maybe in the same order, but it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. A lot of history there. My third would be Salem.
Salem's awesome. I forgot about Salem. Yeah,
it's awesome. Just walking down the street and so much history. Going to where actually the Grays really were. The most weirdest thing. There's a CVS right there in Holmes. It's really awesome.
Oh, where they were
really buried. Yeah.
Actually,
So
hung, right?
Yeah. The experiences that we got while we were there and stuff, it just is amazing.
We got incredible audio at the site where they were hung at. Actually, we actually got to interview one of the family members of one of them that were actually hung there, right?
Yeah.
And we had audio rolling, and we got permission and everything to record and whatnot. We have this audio piece. Scott has it somewhere, but we catch like a response to our question, and it's like this crazy scream.
Like somebody's being brutally killed.
It's just this loud female guttural scream that like you would have thought we would have heard with our own ears, but we literally caught on this audio recorder. It's amazing. But I forgot about that.
Yeah, that one. My number 4th one, probably honestly, I would.
New Orleans was pretty freaking badass. Like the whole quarter.
Yeah.
The whole quarter.
But number 4, I mean, I'm trying to. It is, I guess, when you put yourself into the thing. I thought I would be able to say it right there.
It's not that easy. I was just using Arizona because it was easier.
It was. I will say Virginia City. You could just walk down the street and almost all the buildings have some kind of activity, honestly. Oh, my 5th would probably be Disneyland. It's the weirdest thing, but my favorite ride is one of the most honest rides. It's a small world. I would say Disneyland.
Yeah,
it's the one way to get him to take me to Disneyland all the
time. Walking around with EMF detectors and freaking
I'm intrigued by what you said about Salem and the guttural scream you probably heard was somebody burning at the stake. And yes. I know that me and Melinda have to go there because when she did this session where we did past lives and she was able to sing into the past lives, we both had ties back to the Salem witch trials.
Oh, wow.
So I think that place for us would be crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I will tell you the cemetery where they sort of honestly act like they're buried there. I mean, they won't tell you they are, but
you know about the place where they were actually murdered, like where that's the memorial.
Well, that's just the memorial area, but that cemetery is really active.
Dude, that is the scariest. The cemetery in Salem, like
because you can't go. The weird thing about Salem is they have a curfew of where you're. I mean,
you can't go inside
certain things at certain times. And I will tell you, we're not trying to be bad and not pass our curfew, but we were at some event and we were walking back and we were right next to the cemetery. And I swear to you, you could just see things walking around everywhere. And you're just like,
it's like one of those stereotypical like ghost stories where someone walks by a cemetery and like there's just people walking through it. Yeah. That was the experience that we had there. And it was like sleeping.
And it was just, and then I kept hearing just whispering of talking, like hundreds of people.
Oh, dude, that place is so rad. I forgot about that.
And there was that abandoned house that's probably fixed up now, but it looked like they were fixing it up right next to it.
Oh, that's right.
And it was just like a light kept going on. and then going on, going on.
That place is cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, a question I have for both of you, and I'm sure you both have an answer to it. Now, when you've done an investigation, what's the one investigation, and what was the experience that you had that was like super unique to you, or stands out so much more than the others for you?
For me, it would have to be, we've taken countless investigations and only a few that we've deemed actually demonic. And one specific that was considered a demonic haunting, absolutely, undoubtedly. We've been working with the family for months and months and months, and like our life was just going straight to hell for even helping this family out. It was attacking us at home. Our kid ended up in the hospital. You started getting sick. Marie started losing her hair. So all of a sudden, she started having like these issues with her health that were coming out of nowhere, seemingly. We were going back to revisit the home because the first cleansing that we had done, the kids brought back in the Ouija board and all their forms of communication after we told them to remove them from the home and to stop their communication. So things just immediately went right back to where it was at, even worse. So we were coming back to fix what they had broken. I had taken the day off from work. So we had run some errands that day. We knew that evening we were going to be leaving around like 4 or 5 o'clock to head down to their house to do what we had to do. And I kept loading up the car. Marie all of a sudden started feeling like she was kind of sick. She wasn't feeling really well. And back then I used to take all kinds of equipment. I could load a whole freaking bus full of stuff. I didn't even use half of it, but nowadays it's like one bag and then I'm ready to go. But back then, I don't know, but overdoing it, overachieving. Right. So I kept leaving, coming back to the door would be locked. And I'd be like, what the heck? I left the door unlocked. So I'd be pounding on the door. Let me in. And then my kid would let me in. And then it just happened back and forth. And then finally, I walked to get the last piece of gear out of our closet in our bedroom. And as I was walking out of the room, on my desk, I had a box full of business cards, about 250, 300 cards in this box. And I saw it lift up and get thrown across the room right in front of me. And they were my cards for our paranormal society. And I was like, okay, that really just freaking happened, right? So I'm like, okay, loaded up the car. I come back and it sounds like there's bowling balls falling from the sky, hitting our ceiling, just jarring our entire house. So at this point, I'm kind of getting a little nervous. I call our reverend. I'm like, hey, this is what I got going on. Like, I have a feeling that it knows we're coming. It's not even at their house. It's at our house right now. What do you need me to do? He's like, well, I gave you the holy water. You know what you're supposed to do. And I would always jokingly call this holy water, magic water, because it would piss him off pretty much. That's the reason why I did it. So her and I would joke about that a lot with him. But long story short, we started hearing what sounded like this male voice. But anyone's ever used like the old ovuluses? And they have that like real, like it just computerized sounding voice. It just sounds really terrible. We started hearing that, but it was more put together and it was kind of traveling around our entire house. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Well, when I talked to the Reverend, he said, you know what to do with this water. And I'm like, I'm not really, but okay. So I had the water in my hand and I started saying the prayer that, we'd always used in homes and whatnot. As soon as I said Jesus, like Marie lunged from the bed at me. And her eyes completely went from just normal, just regular everyday eyes to complete darkness. It obviously scared the living hell out of me. And her teeth are showing and she's growling at me and she's like, Jesus, like there is no Jesus. And she's yelling at me and fighting with me whether there is a God or not. And I'm like, what the hell? And I've got this holy water in my hand. I'm thinking I'm about to be a victim of domestic violence. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm scared to death. So my brilliant idea is I'm throwing all this freaking water on her. Like, I don't care. So I had a big jug of it. It's a little flask of it. And I just dumped it all over her head. That's really what I did. So not very professional, okay? But that was all I had at the moment because I didn't know what to do. So she collapsed on the bed, actually. And she came to probably about 10 seconds later.
I almost killed you for getting my hair wet.
She's like, what's going on? Why am I in here? Why am I all wet? And I'm like, whoa.
No, I wasn't caring about me being wet. I was scared about my hair being wet.
Yeah, she was really pissed.
I was really
pissed. But she wasn't nearly as pissed as what she was moments before. But like literally something had jumped her. And, I unfortunately.
I don't recall any of that. All I do is I remember I thought I was sleeping. I honestly, because I wasn't feeling good, and all of a sudden I remember water all over and my hair was flat.
No, it was
I just got done with my hair.
It's very difficult because you really, when you're working with, like, someone you really care about, your partner, your wife, or your husband, and you see them being influenced so deeply by something. And I didn't know what to do. Like, my whole instinct was like, I have to go to this case now. No matter what, I'm going to this house. And she's like, later on, she's like, I'm not going. And I'm like, okay, I'm going. So I literally called like all my close friends and my mom and my dad, told them I love them, because I honestly thought that I would probably get killed in a car accident or something like crazy was going to happen to me. But I felt still drawn to go to this house to help out this family. And we got there, we did our thing. It never showed its face, but we still did what we had to do. Subsequently, from all the work we did with this case and why things fought back so hard with us, and there's so many much stories just associated with that case alone, we could do 10 movies about it. But with that being said, though, like, the mother of the home's father started back up his ministry and started it in their own house in their basement where the center of activity was at. He ended up having a congregation of over 50 people. He then later ended up reopening a church to continue his work as a minister and getting back into the church. Her husband rededicated his life to Christ. Her girls all rededicated themselves. A divorce that was inevitable all of a sudden became something that was not even on the table anymore. And a whole family that was just being torn apart. All of a sudden, everything just kind of came full circle. But that was why the enemy was a little pissed off and coming at me so strong in my own place, was because all these people that were going to be reached just from us providing a message had nothing to do with the investigation ever. Because every time we showed them a piece of evidence, it was always that now what, right? But it was Marie and I being a friend and willing to sacrifice ourselves, which we did in our own family to help out their family. So we definitely use that as an educational tool and talk about that case quite a bit to others, especially newbies coming in, and whatnot, to educate them about residential cases and how dangerous they can be. That was kind of long-winded. I'm sorry.
Oh, hey,
I told
great.
you he knows how to talk.
Me too. It's great. I love it. I love it. I love hearing about it. I'm so interested in it. And it's crazy you say that, because sometimes when you tell these stories like this, they have profound effect on people when they hear these stories and how they can relate to certain things that you say within that story. So, long-winded is good for me. I'll tell you, I love it. I love listening to it.
Okay, guys, I got one last question for you two. How do you determine if a case is real? I mean, is there really spirits there or whatever, or is it more, I don't want to say like a mental problem, but how do you determine if the case is real?
It's a long process. I mean,
Yeah.
Our case manager herself has a lot of work cut out for her specifically to really, and sometimes the recommendation might be that we recommend that maybe you go and seek some help from, a professional, because they're dealing with a lot of these different issues, to see if they can get kind of a clear with them before we'll even touch it. I
think people need to do more research before even going into the home.
Yeah.
And actually finding out. That's the first thing to do. Some of these people are saying, I really need you in my home right now. But that could be more dangerous for you, them and you. So I always tell people, tap the brakes.
Yeah, so those people that are listening right now that are thinking, oh, I'm going to call Jay and Marie and I'm going to get them out there tomorrow. Like, I mean, if you're rushing us to get out anywhere, I mean, like, we do our homework, making sure that we're going to go in there, that you guys are going to be safe, that we're going to be safe. And we definitely don't want to do any more damage. So if we think it might be damaging psychologically to the family or the children or whoever's in the home, that might be something that we may not take based upon that solely. We might just do a lot of talking and consulting rather than investigation.
I will say the one thing, I will never tell somebody that thinks their house is haunted that it's not haunted.
Right.
I will tell them what I think it is. Because I'm sorry, I'm not going to be one of them. They're there 65 days a year, all day, all night, living through this. Paranormal investigators, you're lucky to be there 4 hours?
6 hours.
Maybe 6 hours.
Maybe you even stayed the night.
Maybe you stayed the night. Sometimes you do get lucky and you get to come back and forth a couple times. you're not there as long as those people live there. So I'm not going to be the one that's going to say, no, I'm deeming this not haunted. It's sorry. It's just a house breaking in and settling, or
but
it's
will
your
we
pipes.
educate you and
But we
consult you
will
enough to the
educate
point
you.
to where you become to realize that maybe this is something more natural? But what we do find a lot is poltergeist activity. I call them Mr. Potato Head ghosts, because people essentially create their own ghosts, right? So they create their own demons, they create their own ghosts. Next thing you know, that it's actually a real haunting that they've created with their own psychic, if you will. So I've worked behavioral health for about 10 years, law enforcement and behavioral health for 10 years. I had many decades of working with seriously mentally ill. And I get a lot of phone calls when I'm doing those types of jobs. And off the record conversations with doctors and whatnot, and saying, hey, Jay, I don't think this kid or this individual is actually crazy. I think they're actually seeing this. What do you think about this? Or, and trying to talk to a doctor that's gone to like 10 years of college or something. And here I am, just some guy trying to explain to him that, yeah, it's possible that these ghosts exist.
That's the reason you've got to do the research.
Yeah.
You have to
with the family, with the location, with the house, all of it.
It's
so
like
important.
the land. I mean, you have to do so much to actually try to deem. So saying, how do we find out if it's haunted or not?
It's really not what we're looking for.
It's really not. I'm there to help the family when we're doing residential, or even a building. If it's a historical building, I'm there to help them. So I would say, oh yeah, your place is haunted or not haunted. I won't. I will just tell them, like, I can't.
Not even in the beginning were we ever like that.
No, I always, because these people, when you go out to their buildings or their homes, oh, this is happening, this is happening.
They're already convinced it's haunted. Anyway. Nothing haunted. I can say to change it.
I mean, I can sit there and tell them it was the pipes. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of times I'll say your pipe is, sounding busted back there, and that noise that you're hearing, you think it's
your dishwasher draining.
It's your dishwasher draining, or it's your refrigerator. We tell them that, that.
And don't get me wrong. Sometimes, and it's really weird. We've been doing this for a very long time. That people's, like their fear over a pipe then turns into this fear response that they put out into the universe, which then attracts negativity, attracts things that spirits and entities alike, and you could eventually create something of your own just based upon your reaction and your fear to something that is completely explainable. And the next thing you know, you're really going through something very serious that didn't have to happen, all because someone didn't take the time to really educate you about the other possibilities or how to handle said haunting, so.
Absolutely. Your thoughts manifest into reality when you put enough focus into them. And also, like you said, the law of attraction, where negative brings negative,
Absolutely. Yeah. We see it so much. I mean, and we deal a lot with, our son, he has mental illness and autism and several other diagnoses. So we definitely have done work with dementia, Alzheimer's, autism, intellectual disabilities, things like that. I mean, I'm under the understanding that for myself and my own experience and research in this field is that kids are fresh from their creator. They're not tainted with this world's corruption, so they have that faith. Those imaginary friends oftentimes aren't imaginary to them. Now, maybe they're manifesting them through their own faith and childlike faith, and then attracting spirits to them because of this mystical type ability that we're all born with, but we lose because life sends us such great disappointment and so much disaster that we lose our ability to believe that there's magic in this world still, or that there's something supernatural. And then when we become older and we get dementia, we get Alzheimer's, we get things like that, that veil thins again, and we resort back to that childlike faith again. So when your aunt or your uncle or your grandma or grandfather are talking to these dead loved ones and you think that they're crazy, oftentimes we've documented on cases, in fact, they are talking to these people on the other side. And it's not just a medical diagnosis. In fact, they're starting their transition to the other side, and they're seeing things much clearly than we are that have clear health, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, this has been such a great conversation. It is that time for us to have you guys tell everybody where they can follow you, find you, all the sites that they can basically watch your work as it unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely. If guys are interested in anything that Marie or I do, you can always go to yatesfamilyhaunting.com. That's our own personal website. It'll give you our bio, some exclusive videos of things we've done recently. We update that site pretty regularly. You can also visit our team site, which is the Cops COPS crew
Sorry, our cat.
CREW.com. So thecopscrew.com. That's our Paranormal Society's website. You can go there and check it out. And of course, we want everyone to come out to Vulture City Paracon, going to vulturecityparacon.com, get all that information. If you're interested in tours or anything we have going on at Vulture City in particular, vulturemindtours.com is the site to go to find all the newest events we have going on.
We have the YouTube channel.
And we have a YouTube channel up there as well. So, yeah, guys, definitely thank you guys for having us on. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we've answered some questions.
And hopefully when COVID goes away, and I'm telling everybody, please be safe out there.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is, I don't get me wrong. I think all of us are tired of COVID, but it is real. So be safe out there. And I mean, hopefully next year we have tons of other locations that we do events at and we investigate. So just this year we sort of been trying to stay safe for ourselves, and we're an outdoor venue.
And definitely keep your eyes out on Travel Channel, because you will be seeing us quite a few times next year.
Well, Jay and Marie, I want to thank you, and I'm definitely going to come down to Vulture City very soon. I've got to come and meet you guys and do that. So,
Awesome
thank you again.
you.
Absolutely.
Very
Thanks
much
for
so.
having us.
Absolutely. I hope one day we get to do an investigation together too. But
Yeah,
on that
absolutely.
note, we are at the end of the show. I want to thank everybody who's joined us in the audience. I want to thank Jay and Marie. Thank you guys so much. It was such a pleasure. This is such an awesome. I think we might have lost them.
I think we did.
That's okay. They can
That's
hear
okay.
us. Thank you very much for coming in. It was such an amazing conversation. So, everybody out there in the audience, I hope that we achieved our goal in sparking your mind and your soul at the same time. This has been the Seer and the Scholar. That's Rescue Media Melinda. I am Rob Yachts. Hopefully, we'll see you around the board next time here on the Seer and the Scholar. Everybody have a great evening.